Welcome back to Chapter 13. This is the Endocrine System Overview, Video 2. So let's talk about control of the hormone secretions. In general, hormone secretion is controlled by negative feedback. In a few cases, primarily in the reproductive systems, positive feedback contributes to this control. So I'm going to read the definition of negative feedback and then I'm going to explain it. So negative feedback in a homeostatic mechanism, effectors are activated or deactivated such that the conditions will return toward normal. The deviation from the set point is corrected and progressively lessens. So what that means, our body has a set point or a range of whatever we're talking about. So let's say that we're talking about sugar levels inside the bloodstream. The body maintains a certain range of sugar or would like to maintain a certain range of sugar inside of the bloodstream. When that level increases or decreases, the body will then try to correct it so that that level of sugar in the blood remains where we want it, in that optimal range. That we're calling the set point. Anytime there is a deviation from that set point, again, whether it's increased or decreased, the body will then kick in to correct that because it doesn't like being outside of these normal limits. We call that negative feedback. So we're not where we want to be. We don't like it. So we're trying to correct it as quickly as possible. And it will use either activation or deactivation of the effectors to help push it back toward normal as quickly as possible. So again, if we're eating a bunch of candy, blood sugar levels will eventually increase because sugar is being absorbed into the digestive system and goes into the bloodstream pretty quickly. So blood sugar levels will rise. The body will secrete insulin in response to help hurry up as quickly as possible, decrease those blood sugar levels so they're in normal limits. Let's also use calcium as an example. So let's say you eat lots of leafy green vegetables and you're drinking your milk, you're getting a lot of calcium into the body. The body says, I have this set amount of calcium that I want to be in my bloodstream at any given time. And right now I have an excess of calcium. So let's secrete hormone so that we can bring that calcium level down to optimal levels. That hormone then will take that excess calcium and deposit it into the bones. Or let's say that there is an imbalance somewhere in the body and it ends up decreasing calcium levels. So then the body will say that the calcium level is below that optimal range. So let's secrete hormone to help quickly increase or raise the calcium levels as quickly as possible so that we can have the optimal amount of calcium in the body. So that is negative feedback. Again, negative feedback is I want to maintain this set point. I want to maintain this optimal range of whatever it is I'm looking at, whether it's body temperature, calcium levels, sugar levels, whatever it is. I want to maintain this. If there is a deviation from that normal, an increase or decrease, the body then says, I don't like it. Let's hurry up and try to get back to normal as quickly as possible. That is negative feedback, and that is the predominant type of feedback that the body gives to help maintain homeostasis. Conversely, you have the process of positive feedback. In positive feedback, the change is not reversed. Instead, it's intensified. The effector activity is initially increased rather than turned off. So in negative feedback, we're trying to get back to normal as quickly as possible by either turning things off, some things off, turning some things on, but whatever it is, we're trying to get the body back to that set point, that normal range as quickly as possible. In positive feedback, we're not trying to get back to normal as quickly as possible. What we're trying to do is intensify whatever reaction that is instead of turning it off. An example would be, let's say, childbirth. That is the most common example that you'll see. So once mom is at the end of the pregnancy, mom is about to give birth, you may have those first contractions. And once those first contractions occur, the body is not going to try to stop those contractions. Those contractions will intensify because we don't want to stop the contraction. We want to get the baby out. So we want to intensify the contractions until baby leaves the body. All right. So increase in strength of the contractions in order to produce the desired effect. In this case, kicking the baby out of the womb, so that baby can leave the womb. The other example is blood clotting. So if you have an injury, then the injury is causing you to bleed, then you will have reactions that don't stop you from clotting. In actuality, that will signal clotting to occur, signal more and more clotting until you're no longer bleeding or you're no longer bleeding out. So instead of trying to stop that reaction, it's going to try to intensify that reaction until you get the desired effect. Negative feedback, we want to quickly get back to normal. So we're either going to stop or start processes in order to help us hurry up and get back to normal. Positive feedback, once a reaction occurs, we're not trying to stop it. We're actually going to make it stronger in order to receive the desired effect. So that is the difference between negative and positive feedback. So let's look at the different endocrine glands. And again, because this is a shortened PowerPoint and it is an overview, we are going to learn the entirety of this 23-page PowerPoint. This is video 2 of 2. I think there will be 2. All right, endocrine glands. First gland is the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is located at the base of the brain. The pituitary gland will secrete growth hormone, TSH, FSH, LH, and prolactin. Yes, you need to know all the hormones. So, growth hormones, we already talked about that one. Growth hormones secreted by the pituitary gland, it is going to cause the bones and other cells in the body to grow. That's why it's called growth hormone. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This is the hormone that stimulates the thyroid to produce its product. TSH is not produced by the thyroid, produced by the pituitary to stimulate the thyroid to produce its hormone. TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. This is the hormone that is, when released in a person born female, it will stimulate the follicles to mature and release an egg. Follicle stimulating hormone. LH also works in helping to take that egg once it's released. So the space in the ovary where the egg was released, it also processes that. In people born male, follicle stimulating hormone and LH luteinizing hormone work on the testes to help mature and develop the sperm. And prolactin is the hormone that is produced so that mom can produce breast milk. So when she's at the end of pregnancy, she'll start producing milk to feed baby once baby is born. That is the pituitary gland. The thyroid gland is the gland that lives inferior to the larynx. Larynx is the throat. So at the base of the neck or the base of the throat is the larynx, and the anterior, which is anterior to the trachea. The trachea is the windpipe. So in the very front of your throat, if you feel your throat, you'll feel the lumpy bumpiness of the anterior part of your throat. That is the windpipe. And just anterior to that is the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland secretes T3 and T4. T4 is called thyroxine. T3, triiodothyronine. So tri meaning three. All right, so T3 and T4 are the hormones secreted by the thyroid gland that affect cellular metabolism, either increasing or decreasing the functioning of the cells. Parathyroid hormone. Remember, para means near or next to. The parathyroid gland, I meant to say parathyroid gland. The parathyroid gland sits on the posterior surface of the thyroid gland. So it's a separate gland, but it is located on the back side of the thyroid gland, even though it's two completely different glands. It secretes PTH, parathyroid hormone. PTH, parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone regulates calcium levels and phosphate levels in the blood. So when the calcium levels are off, one of the hormones that might be secreted is parathyroid hormone. You have the adrenal glands. Adrenal means kidney. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys like a little hat. So addition to, on top of, renal, kidneys. That is where it's located. So the adrenal gland produces several hormones. These hormones have many different functions. So it has hormones that maintain blood sodium levels. You have hormones that respond to stress. It also produces hormones, sex hormones, before puberty. So before puberty, before someone reaches the age of typically around 12, 13 years old, the sex hormones are produced by the adrenal glands. Once puberty hits, the adrenal glands stop producing sex hormones or doesn't produce as much of it. The ovaries and the testes start taking over the production of the sex hormones so that now it's able to produce more of it. All right, so adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys and produce hormones like hormones that maintain your sodium levels, hormones that respond to stress, and sex hormones before a person hits puberty. The pancreas is located behind or posterior to the stomach, not the actual stomach, not the abdomen that lay people call stomach, but we're talking about the actual stomach. So it's posterior to the stomach. The pancreas has both endocrine and exocrine function. So exocrine function is the digestive enzymes that is producing. Remember, exocrine function means that the secretions are released through a duct onto a surface. So the digestive enzymes are secreted through the pancreatic duct and are secreted onto the surface of the small intestines to help you digest your food. The endocrine function of the pancreas is with how the pancreas will secrete glucagon and insulin directly into the bloodstream to help regulate blood sugar. Insulin is produced and secreted into the bloodstream when blood sugar levels increase. So whenever you eat carbohydrates and sugar, that will be absorbed into the body, into the bloodstream, that sugar level will increase and the pancreas will secrete insulin to decrease the sugar levels in the blood by pulling that sugar into other cells so that those cells can use that sugar to produce energy, to produce ATP. When the sugar levels of the blood drop, if you haven't eaten for a long time, your blood sugar levels start to drop. The pancreas secretes glucagon. The glucose is gone from the bloodstream. So it secretes glucagon to help the body stimulate the production of sugar. So your body can actually make sugar from amino acids, from lipids, etc., to help raise blood sugar levels so that the sugar levels of the blood can be in that optimal range. Yes, you need to know. Glucagon is secreted to increase the level of sugar in the blood when blood sugar gets low. Insulin is secreted in order to decrease blood sugar levels when sugar in the bloodstream gets too high. You have the pineal gland. The pineal gland is located in the brain. Remember, I called that the third eye. The pineal gland secretes melatonin, right? Melatonin is responsible for aiding in your sleep-wake cycle. Your body naturally produces melatonin. You may have heard of melatonin as a supplement that is available over the counter for people who may have some type of sleep disturbance, insomnia, etc. They market it as a natural sleep aid. It is actually a hormone that your body produces naturally in response to decrease in sunlight, decrease in light to help you sleep, right? So that is secreted by the pineal gland. The thymus. The thymus is located in the posterior aspect of the sternum, so on the back of the sternum. The thymus produces thymosin. The thymosin affect white blood cell production and differentiation. So your thymus is helping to produce white blood cells. So it's increasing the production of the white blood cells so that you can have more of those immune cells to help monitor and protect your body from foreign invaders like bacteria, viruses, parasites, etc. It also helps those white blood cells differentiate into different types of white blood cells as those white blood cells are being produced. You have the ovaries. The ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone once a person hits puberty. Ovaries produce estrogen and progesterone once a person hits puberty. The testes produce testosterone once a person hits puberty. So the ovaries and the testes, remember, they take over the production of those sex hormones at puberty. It takes over that production from the adrenal glands, which produced it before puberty. You have the placenta. The placenta is the sac that the baby is in as it's being developed. That placenta actually produces estrogens, progesterone, and gonadotropin while baby is being built. So mom needs to produce extra estrogens, progesterones, and gonadotropins to help build the baby. So the placenta will help pick that extra production up so that the ovaries can continue to do their own job. Now, let's talk about stress and the effects of stress. So you already know that your body has part of the divisions of your nervous system is the sympathetic system, fight or flight, and the parasympathetic system, the rest and digest portion. All right. So how your body handles that. We already talked about some of the nervous system effects. We're going to talk about the endocrine effects as well, but we want to talk about stress and how it affects the body, because I need you to know how stress is affecting you so that you can do everything in your power now to learn how to mitigate some of that stress so that you don't have some of the effects that stress can have. All right. Your survival depends on maintaining homeostasis within the body. Factors that change the internal environment are potentially life-threatening. So if you have any kind of change on the inside your body, it could potentially threaten your life if your body is not able to maintain or get it back to normal levels. Sensing these dangers will direct nerve impulses to the hypothalamus. This will trigger a loss of homeostasis, right? So again, any kind of change in the body can change homeostasis, and your body wants to get back to homeostasis as soon as possible, and it knows that it's outside of homeostasis by this trigger. A stressor is something that is capable of stimulating a stress response. A stressor is something that is capable of stimulating a stress response. Stress then is the condition produced by the stressor. All right, so a stressor is the thing that creates the stress response. Stress is the condition produced by the stressor. You have different types of stress. So stressors may be physical, or it might be psychological, or it could be a combination of both. So a physical stressor is something that actually threatens the tissues of your body. It actually threatens your actual body. Rottweiler getting out of the gate and running towards you. That is a physical stress because the Rottweiler threatens your actual physical body. You go into the woods, there's a bear, that bear sees you, it's ready for the smoke, it's ready to fight. That bear is a physical threat to your body tissues. A psychological stress is the result of a thought about something real or the thought of something imagined, which means that it is not something that is physically going to threaten the actual tissues of your body, but it is still causing a stress response. So if you think about the test that you forgot about, that is the thought of a stressor. Or if you imagine a danger, you create all of these what if scenarios. You create something that's not there. What happens if somebody comes and does X, Y, Z? What happens if I don't do well on the test? What happens if? Right? So these are imagined dangers that have not actually occurred, but because you are worried about it, you're thinking about it, it still produces the stress response in the body. Personal loss can create a psychological stress. So that could be the loss of a loved one, the loss of personal property. It could be any kind of personal loss. That loss will create a stress, some type of unpleasant social interaction. You have to go to an event that you really don't want to go to. You have to perform in front of other people and you don't want to. You have to just speak to people that you don't want to speak to. Those unpleasant social interactions can cause a stress response or any other kind of threatening factor. Feelings of anger, fear, grief, anxiety, depression, and guilt can also cause a psychological stress. So regardless of whether the stressor is a physical stress that actually threatens your physical being, or it's a psychological stress come from a thought about something that's real or something that is imagined. It can come from feelings, your emotions. Any of those will still cause the stress response in the body. Here, I'm going to let you read the major events in the general stress syndrome, but basically, this is how this happens. So, as a result of the stress, your nerves will send an impulse that is transmitted to the hypothalamus, and that is going to start uh, the cascade of events that follow. So here, this is an example. So let's go through it. The stress results from changes in the external environment. So that could be extreme drop in temperature. That can be an extreme rise in temperature. So let's say the temperature in New Orleans drops to -3, absolute physical stress. Or the humidity level is 100% and it is 103 degrees outside, which means that it will feel like 100 and something ridiculous. All right. That's an actual physical stress in the environment. Though you get the signal from those sensory receptors saying that there is a stressor that is occurring. That is going to signal the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will do one of two things. You'll have sympathetic impulses that will reach the adrenal medulla, so the middle of the adrenal gland. That adrenal medulla will produce epinephrine and norepinephrine. Remember, that's adrenaline and noradrenaline, and that will create your short-term fight or flight. If norepinephrine is released, then again, same response. It'll create that short-term fight or flight response where you have an increase in blood sugar so that you can have sugar to get to the muscles so that your muscles can either fight or run. If you run out of sugar to produce ATP, you run out of gas, you cannot run, you cannot fight, you're automatically eaten by the Rottweiler, game over. Your body doesn't want that. So the stress response helps you to produce glucose so that you can have quick energy to get out of danger. The blood glycerol and fatty acid levels increase. Glycerol and fatty acids are are made up what make up the adipose in your adipocytes. And once those are released, the body can quickly break that down to help increase the blood sugar level so that your cells have quick glucose available to make ATP so that you can get out of danger. Your heart rate increases. Your heart rate is increasing so that you can have more blood flowing to more parts of your body more quickly so that you can get the sugar that your body just produced throughout the body, throughout the cells, so that you can get out of danger. Your blood pressure will increase because your body wants to get that blood to the body as quickly as possible, to the cells of the body as quickly as possible. Your breathing rate will increase so that you can get more oxygen into the body as quickly as possible so that that oxygen can get to the cells, and that oxygen can go couple with the glucose products so that you can make as much ATP as quickly as possible so that you can get out of danger. Your air passageways dilate. Remember, dilation is to increase in size. Air passageways is going to dilate so that you can get more air into the lungs, so that you can get more oxygen into the bloodstream. Your pupils will dilate. Remember, the pupils are the holes in the irises that allow light to come into the eyes so that you can see things. Your pupils are going to dilate so that now you can get more information about the surroundings so that you can maybe find an escape plan, or you can find a rock or a stick or something to help you fight, or you can find some type of strategic way to help you get out of danger. Pupils are going to dilate so that you can see more, so that you can either fight or run. Blood flow is redistributed. Remember, fight or flight is opposite of rest and digest. If you're trying to get out of danger, you're not going to digest. You don't want to use up your blood flow going to the digestive system while you're in danger. So that blood flow is rerouted from the digestive system so that you can have more blood flow to the cells that need it to help you get out of danger. All right. So this is what's happening. The blue lines are what happens with your hormones. The yellow lines are what happens in your nervous system. So hypothalamus, sympathetic system will tell your adrenal medulla to produce epinephrine and norepinephrine so that these things can occur. And then your neurons are going to produce and release norepinephrine so that, again, these things can occur. Opposite of that, you will have CRH released. That CRH is released from the hypothalamus. CRH will stimulate the anterior part of the pituitary, and pituitary has two parts, anterior and posterior. It's going to stimulate the anterior pituitary to secrete ACTH, adrenocorticotropin hormone. That ACTH will then stimulate the adrenal cortex to release cortisol. Cortisol will help to increase blood concentration of amino acids. Remember that amino acids, well, let me go back. Cortisol will help to release or increase blood concentrations of amino acids, helps to increase the release of the fatty acids from your adipocytes, and it helps increase glucose in the bloodstream. And this glucose is formed from your non-carbohydrates. So those amino acids that were just released, those fatty acids that were just released, are both used to help increase blood sugar levels that will then help to create more ATP coupled with that increase in oxygen that you experienced from the increase in breathing rate and the dilation of those air passages. So this is how your body uses the nervous system and the endocrine system to respond to stress. Please make sure that you are looking at this chart and the previous graph so that you can understand all the things that are happening, so that you can understand the responses to stress. That is the end of Chapter 13, Endocrine System Overview.